Hello, folks, and welcome to the A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. I'm Charlie Burris here, as always, with my co-host and A to Z Sports Tennessee writer, Zach Ragan. Wherever you listen throughout the world, we thank you so much for listening to us. Zach and I talk everything Vols every week here on the Big Orange Podcast. And if that sounds like something you want to listen to regularly, make sure you go over to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed, Apple, Spotify, and rate, review, and most importantly, subscribe. Because if you subscribe, you won't miss an episode when we drop them on Mondays. I'm at Charlie_Burris on Twitter. Zach is at ZachTNT. At A to Z Sports on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook.com/A to Z Sports Nashville, and A to Z Sports.com for everything that Zach and I write. And we can go ahead and kick it off. Zach, we have a co-host for the show today. This would be my cat that you can see if you are watching on our new feature. Well, it's not a live video, but the recorded video on YouTube. You can see the cat laying on the back of my chair. Sure, that's going to be great if he comes down here and starts messing with stuff as he loves to do. But we'll deal with that if and when it comes. Well, Zach, do you ever just like reevaluate your life sometimes and go, why do I do the things that I do with my life, with the decisions I've made? What was I thinking? Why did I do this to myself? It didn't have to be this way. Because I know, or I say that because when I have a week like I just had with Tennessee sports, you start thinking, why did I do? I could have been a carpenter and just spent my time crafting beautiful wooden pieces of art, and I never would have had to feel this pain and anguish. I'm being incredibly overly dramatic. It was a bit of a rough week, Zach, in Tennessee sports. We'll talk about it here, but how you holding up, sir?
Yeah, it's funny that I texted you earlier this week about having some guests on the show, and we were talking about that. So I'm glad to see that your cat is the first guest. Yeah. And
looks great.
Based on some of the tweets I've seen from people and some of their sports takes, Tennessee takes, your cat probably has much better takes. I feel pretty confident.
He probably does. We'll get his take a little bit later in the show, see what he thinks. But this week, so we came off last week and had a discussion where we were a little hopeful. Like, we were hopeful specifically about basketball. I had started off our discussion about basketball talking about the Lady Vols having an amazing season. They were going into last week 18-1. They had a game, essentially what was a snoozer game against Auburn. Auburn was 0-7 in the SEC, had a losing record, still has a losing record to this day. And the Lady Vols go to Auburn, and they lose their second game of the season. So their two losses are to number 2 Stanford and dumpster fire Auburn. Now, I have some Auburn fans that follow me, and they were tweeting at me. Yeah, and I basically said, I tweeted something to the effect of, the Lady Vols are about to go from the best start to a season since 2007, which it is. It didn't take that away, but it was the best start since 2007, which, if you don't remember, that was a year that the Lady Vols won a national championship. They were going to go from the best start since 2007 to one of the worst losses in school history. Maybe a little over dramatic. I'm not totally sure that's the case. If you listened to us last week, I had season tickets for the Lady Vols for most of my childhood and watched a huge bulk of their games, probably more than a lot of people. And it was one of the worst losses I've ever watched. It was terrible. Absolute nightmare. they could not figure it out in that fourth quarter after making a great comeback in the third quarter. And so that was an omen. We should have known at that point. And then Tennessee goes to Texas. The men's basketball team goes to Texas. Austin unrolls the red carpet, or the burnt orange carpet, I guess, for Rick Barnes. Just so it was a little too much. Was it a little too much?
Yeah, for sure. It was surreal.
They fired the guy, right?
He ran him out of town. But at the same time, isn't it kind of like Tennessee and Philip Fulmer? I mean,
yeah, that's true.
It's very although Philip Fulmer won a national championship. He never coached anywhere else again, even though when he first got let go there. I mean, he wasn't even 60 yet, I don't believe, when he was still relatively young. I mean, compared to coaches now. He could have easily went to coach somewhere else. And I can't remember exactly how all that went down. It's been 14 years ago. I can't remember how strong the rumors were. I feel like there were a few rumors about him maybe going somewhere, but since he never coached again, I feel it's a little different, but at the same time, you still fired the guy. But with Barnes, I mean, there was all this complaining when he was the head coach of Texas. Many of the same complaints you hear now that he's the head coach of Tennessee, pretty much the same stuff. And yeah, they really did it up. I mean, their social media, they had T-shirts made up.
They had him do an interview with Chris Beard.
It was so awkward because I guess they were in like some sort of restaurant. Yeah. With like a little, and you hear the clanging of glasses in the background and people talking, and the mic wasn't really, it was kind of scratchy. It wasn't great quality. It wasn't really well done production in any sense. I think it's something that they do. I think that's like his thing at Texas, like he does sometimes with athletes and players and stuff. But
yeah,
it seems very amateurish.
The tweet said something like it's another fireside chat. So I assume that it is like a regular thing. But they kind of set it up like it would have made sense to me if it was him and TJ Ford sitting down. I'd be like, okay, he's a guy, it's a really prominent player that played for Rick back then, a guy who has in the past given Rick tons of credit as a player that they've had an ongoing relationship with. I'd be like, that would be cool. And TJ Ford, beloved in the history of, I believe he was on the Final Four team with Rick and all of that. Like, that would have made sense to me, but like, I don't think Chris Beard was never on like even a staff with Rick. And maybe they are good friends. I don't know. Maybe they are friends. But it was just, they just laid it on so thick. Like, I was like, what do you feel guilty? Like, what? I get it, but
even the like Texas fans on Twitter were very much like talking about how much Rick meant to them. It seemed like overwhelmingly positive. And maybe it's because they kind of, they hired Shaka Smart right after when they fired Rick Barnes. Is that right?
Yes.
And that didn't really work out. So
I believe they have yet to win an NCAA tournament game since Rick Barnes left.
Yeah, maybe that's part of it. And that's, again, it's very similar to Philip Fulmer. You fire Fulmer and the program hasn't really had success. So it looks, you fire Fulmer and you move on into an era where you're winning championships, and that's probably viewed a little different. Same thing with Barnes. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I thought it was very strange, very just, I don't know. It felt awkward the whole time, just because I remember it was not that long ago. I mean, 2015.
15, yeah.
It feels like yesterday, really, that all that was going down. And I remember vividly how done they were with Rick Barnes. I mean, they were done.
It just felt a little forced. That was all. I guess. Hey, it's great.
The t-shirts were what sent me kind of over the edge. I was like, okay, I'd get a video tribute, like a little video tribute.
Come on,
that's fine. I mean, you see video tributes all the time. Like, they're real popular in baseball because baseball players move teams all the time, or they get traded at the deadline and stuff. It's kind of like a thing. Like, was he popular enough to get a tribute video when he comes back? Like, that's kind of a funny little baseball thing there. So I could see that with Barnes, but yeah, the rest of it.
Yes, I would say a tribute video I would have expected. Honestly, he deserves that.
Yeah.
Winningest coach in the history of Texas basketball. But beyond it was all of the other stuff. We're just like, okay, guys, this is a little much. Can we ratchet it back a little bit? He does coach at Tennessee.
Yeah. Look, we know Rick Barnes has a little bit of an ego just based on the way the UCLA stuff kind of went down. So you gotta wonder, like he had to have been enjoying that,
Yeah,
I felt like.
How could you not? But at the same time, we're being a little cynical about all of that. Let's also acknowledge this was cool this week. Dick Vitale during that game, who is fighting cancer at the moment. Good thoughts to him. He sent out some tweets about what Rick Barnes had been texting him every day, and he said that every morning Rick Barnes sends him a personal prayer by text, praying for him to be healed of cancer and recover and things like that. And so we can be as cynical as we want to about all this Texas stuff. At the end of the day, it's stuff like this where you go, man, this is why the whole thing with the way this stuff is going with Barnes right now, it sucks because I want the guy to succeed because he does stuff like this. And I go, this is awesome. That's so awesome. Did he, one of the all-time great announcers, and you think whatever, I know there are people that don't like Dick Vitale, whatever.
He's good for college basketball.
One of the all-time greats. He is
a great. I mean, I grew up listening to him when he was doing a game. It was a big game. Kentucky, Duke, those crazy environments. He was the voice of that. And he got you just as excited as the crowd did. So
yeah,
he can be a bit, especially in his older age. There are definitely moments where I'm not a big fan of him these days, but I grew up with him. I respect what he's given to college basketball. You're not going to find somebody that loves college basketball more than that guy. And it's definitely a great gesture on Barnes' part. I think we have to mention this. Just because it was going around on social media about the way Vitale texted that was very strange. The screenshots made it look like he typed out the message.
I noticed that.
I have no clue. Look, Dick Vitale
he's old. He's old.
I don't know what he was going there for, but Rick Barnes discussed today that he was asked about it. He sent him the message. It was just a weird way that Vitale had to show everybody. So
here's
I feel like somebody would say something if we didn't mention that.
What I think happened there. Vitale is old. He's 80, I think. And he copied and pasted Rick's text into the box.
Yeah.
For whatever in his old person logic and using an iPhone, he copied and pasted it into the text box and then screenshotted that. However it worked, I do not know. Rick says he does it. Dick says he does it. So
yeah,
surely I don't think that they're lying about that.
I mean, it was funny at first, but I don't think Dick Vitale just out of nowhere would.
Yeah, make that up. But throw that on Rick Barnes.
But it's funny though, this conversation of talking about Barnes and just how bad you really wanting to have success at Tennessee.
So bad.
Earlier this week, for whatever, I think I was doing it just to see the tone of Barnes' comments, but I went back and rewatched his introductory press conference at Tennessee earlier this week, and I didn't see anything, about Texas or any comments or any off the wall stuff there. But what I watched and what kind of stuck with me was when he was talking about, and I'm sure you remember this, you were probably there, that growing up, his wife went to Tennessee and he was talking about, or his future wife, and he was talking about making that trip to Tennessee and going to a football game and seeing Condredge Holloway play and then getting to meet him the day that he took the Tennessee job and just how much Tennessee meant to him before he ever coached here. I mean, he grew up in North Carolina, but he grew up not that far from Tennessee. It was a special place to him, and you could hear it in his voice. It wasn't like some of the other coaches that talked about how much they've admired Tennessee from a distance. I mean, even Josh Heupel, I believe that Josh Heupel loves Tennessee and everything associated with it, but you could tell Tennessee meant something to Rick Barnes way before he was a head coach. And that it just kind of stuck with me this week. And as they were going through the loss on Saturday night, I kept thinking back about that. Like, man, you want to get frustrated, and you are, because you're paying this guy $5 million. But at the same time, it means something to him. It makes it a little tougher to be critical, but I'll still be critical. There's I still have it in me.
I mean, it's why I don't think that I will ever be in favor of firing Rick Barnes. He just let him leave on his own terms. He already, in this time that he's been here, done enough to, in my opinion, deserve that. But also because I think this will, just his age-wise, this is probably his last job. And to just allow that if worse comes to worst. I
don't think he's the type that's going to want to taint his legacy by, suddenly Tennessee can't make the tournament. Right now, Tennessee's not where you want them to be based on the talent they have. They're probably going to be done in the first weekend of the tournament, if we're being honest, just based on kind of what we've seen this season, just the inconsistencies and the offense just disappearing for stretches at a time. I mean, they had to go on a 16-0 run Saturday night to finish with 50 points in the final 6 minutes of the game. I mean, that is unbelievable, and that would get you kicked out of the NCAA tournament on day one. But at the same time, the program's steady. Like, he can coach as long as he wants to at this rate, and the program might not progress, but it's not going to go rapidly downhill, and the next person's going to inherit a mess. Like, it's fine.
It's reaching. I think this season is truly reaching a Mark Richt style situation where you go, we're not going to fire the guy for making the tournament every year. You would be foolish to do that. But you might look at the situation and go, there's a lot of really great young coaches out here, including guys that have worked for Rick Barnes. And it might be time for a reevaluation. If, again, this is all if worst becomes worst this season, and you have to have those conversations. We've in the last few episodes, we hashed all of that out in terms of just the general feeling on Barnes. But man, it's tough. It's so conflicting because, great representative of the university. The university clearly means something to him. It's a place where I believe he does truly like to be, even if he did flirt with UCLA and all that stuff. Beyond flirted, essentially said he would have left if he was paid.
That's still one of the worst comments he's ever made.
Yeah, that was out of pocket, man.
We really don't. I mean, we bring it up often on here. But
he said it. He deserves to have it be brought up. He said it, not me.
He doesn't get the Butch Jones treatment with some of Butch's comments that just are kind of synonymous with Butch. Like, when you talk about Butch, you can't help but bring up some of the 5-star hearts and life champions. Like, that stuff gets brought up automatically. Rick, he doesn't get hit with it too much. Not as much as he would probably if they were, a 500 team or something.
No, and it is, to just finish that point, it is just so conflicting because you have a team with the number one point guard in America on the roster. You have a team with a really good point guard in Santiago Vescovi, who's honestly, he's your best player right now. Santiago Vescovi's having the best stretch of basketball of his entire career right now. You have a kid who's getting better in Uros Plavšić, and you have all of these elements where you look and you go, why is this team not better? And that's the tough thing. John Fulkerson, nowhere to be found. Totally fallen off a cliff. Is it COVID? Is it he's just gone? He had a bad season last season, and it's gotten worse. How is this happening? And you get guys, Josiah Jordan-James, just not meeting was useful in that game, hit some big shots, but is just not, came in as a bona fide 5-star and has not lived up to that billing. And I've said before, Rick is a very good player developer. He has taken a bunch of guys with lower ratings and made them better. I mentioned Uros Plavšić just a second ago. Zakai Ziegler, No name, out of nowhere. Brings this kid in, and he's absolutely electric. Love him. But it's the putting it all together, putting 5 guys out on the floor that are going to win you a basketball game. That's where he struggles. He's not a great in-game coach. He never has been, is what ended up getting him fired at Texas. He had Kevin Durant, and I believe only made it to the second round of the NCAA tournament. Like, there's just been some stuff like that where you just go, it's who this guy is at this point. And I think this Texas game, it could not have been more case in point. They played incredible defense, and could not get out of their own way on the offensive end. I believe I was sort of keeping track of it. Scored 3 points in the first 10 minutes of the second half. Something like first 8 to 10 minutes of the second half. I'd have to go back and check exactly what it was. 3 points in 8, 9, 10 minutes? What are we doing? Like, Texas, Chris Beard builds his teams on defense too, similarly to Barnes. But, dude, 3 points in 10 minutes? What? No. You will not win a basketball game that way. And like you said, they had to go on a 16-0 run to reach 50 points. No, that cannot happen. And so we're left in this lurch where you go, love this guy, amazing representative for the university. He wants to be here, and frankly, we want him here. But how does this, where does this culminate? Is the question that is quickly approaching. The end of the season is nearing, and
well, I don't think there's any way anything happens after this year.
No,
not as long as unless they just fall apart and don't make the tournament.
Yeah, I think the only thing that would happen in my mind is if he looks and goes, I'm leaving on my terms.
Yeah,
this is it.
They're too talented. I mean, this is a team where if they weren't very talented and this is a NCAA tournament team. This is a team that's talented enough to go to the Final Four. They definitely are. But the 100%. Way they play, like I don't expect that at all. I'll tell you how did you feel about, and it's been talked about a lot, the Kennedy Chandler deal. I mean, he was not on the floor really for key parts of the game against Texas. He wasn't on the floor for the final play of the game. It's like Zakai Ziegler, who you gotta love. He's turned into a really hustle player that fans are getting behind. He has just the vibe of one of those players that fans are going to love because he's probably going to be there for 4 years. So he's going to be endeared. But that's so, like, Kennedy Chandler's probably your most talented player on the team, or right there at it. And when he first started the season, I mean, it was like, okay, this guy's as advertised, and it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand what's happening with that situation.
So I've seen some speculation, and I've thought this myself. I've seen some speculation among fans who just see that situation where at the end of that game, on the final possession where Tennessee is going down 1 with a chance to hit the game-winning shot, Rick puts the ball in Zakai Ziegler's hands, a no-name 3-star that he just pulled out of, I believe, Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah.
Nobody had heard of that guy. And he has true freshman, just like Casey.
Mm-hmm.
And he has the ball in his hands on that final possession, and not your bona fide 5-star number 1 point guard in America. And people were talking about that on Twitter, and I've seen this in games past too. People kind of speculating, like, is Rick's coaching driving a wedge there with Chandler, in that Rick creates kind of fear in his guys, where if you screw up, I'm pulling you. You're done. I got a rotation of 10 guys, and if you're not getting it done, we got another one lined right up. And he does. You can notice it in a game. He cycles through guys constantly in a lot of games. Unless a lineup is just really working, he cycles through so many guys. And is it getting to Chandler's head? Because some players love Grant Williams ate up Rick Barnes' coaching. It was the perfect puzzle piece fit with Rick Barnes. I mean, I remember talking to Grant Williams after a game when I was still covering the team, and I asked Grant, like, when Rick calls you out after a game and says you didn't play well. Like, what do you think of that as a player? Something along those lines that I asked. And I remember Grant going, it makes me a better player. I take it and I take his criticism, I get better. Like he had that mentality where he wanted to accept that criticism and really go and excel. Grant is a 1 in a million type of player. I mean, a generational, no team is going to see a guy like that more than once, twice, 3 times in 20 years if you're one of the top programs. Like, he just is that dude. He's that dude. I think Kennedy Chandler has the talent to be that dude, but there's so much between the ears. He's a freshman. Told his entire career he's an absolute star. And you come in, you're getting beaten down by a veteran coach who really coaches from a standpoint of, I've been there, done that, listen to what I'm going to do, my way or the highway kind of a thing. Maybe there is friction there, or maybe there's not friction and it's just not working for Kennedy Chandler. I don't know. Anything and everything in what I'm saying here is speculation about Chandler, but I've seen people, and I have been included in this set of people, just speculating like, what is going on there? It's the number. Look at, I'll say, of Calipari this season with Kentucky. In past years, that guy has struggled when these 5-star players come in. They can be just unruly, and they're hard to get centered and focused and playing the way that they're capable of playing. And it bites them in the butt a lot. Rick Barnes has a winning record against John Calipari at Tennessee and has won more times at Rupp Arena than any other active coach. Like, Calipari has struggled with that, even though that's his MO. This season, whatever it is, he's made it work. They have more transfer players. Maybe that's it. They have more senior guys on the team. I don't know. But you just look and you go, well, it's working. It's working at Kentucky. It's working at Duke. Paolo Banchero looks like a monster. It's working at these other places. What's happening here? Number 1 point guard in America. What's happening here? Huh? Why? Why is this not working out? Because the talent is there. We've seen it. What's happening?
I mean, to be totally fair though to Chandler, I was just sitting here looking at his stats, because I don't really look at his numbers all that often. If you take away the context of him being a 5-star point guard, he's averaging 13 points and 5 assists as a true freshman. That's that's not like superstar national player of the year type numbers, but we see a lot of times freshmen come in and they barely make an impact at all, and they're highly rated players.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's playing bad. I mean, maybe this is just, hey, he's a freshman, and just because he's a 5-star, doesn't mean that he's going to come in here and light it up from day one, especially with the style of basketball that Rick Barnes, plays, which there really is seems like there is no offensive style that Tennessee's playing. They're trying to space the floor, and I don't know. It's painful to watch at times because it doesn't allow them to get in a rhythm at all, it seems like. And it's really not a great fit for Chandler's skill set, to be honest.
No.
Maybe
that's a huge part of it.
Yeah. But also you wonder then, okay, in recruiting, he's landed some of these 5-star guys where they haven't really played to a 5-star level. Is that going to hinder Tennessee from getting those players in the future? Because you still need talent. I mean, I'm a big believer in, like you alluded to, you've got to have those 5-star guys, but you can't have a team made up of that. You've got to have veterans. You've got to have some older senior leadership. I think some of the best college basketball teams are the ones that are able to blend that. So you're not going to win a national championship based on 3-star talent that's all 5th-year returning seniors, or that. You got to have talented players. But like I said, this hurt Rick Barnes from a recruiting standpoint, unless Kennedy Chandler's like a top 5-10 pick, which I don't know what kind of NBA draft projections are out there right now or how he's being viewed. I'm sure he'll be one and done. I mean, that's his plan.
He's dropped down draft boards. I know that because he was considered a lottery pick at the beginning. And then last I looked a couple of weeks ago, he was 18th overall, which you would still leave if you're going to go 18th overall. I don't know what he's thinking. what those plans look like. But you just look last season. I mean, you had two guys that honestly have lower ceilings than Kennedy Chandler does, and they both hopped to the NBA. So it is just hard to watch a roster like this to whatever extent gets squandered. You're going to make the tournament. Awesome. You're going to beat teams like Florida. You're going to beat teams like South Carolina. You're going to beat Kentucky. Usually when you're at home, maybe sometimes when you're at Rupp Arena. But at the end of the day, that's not what people remember and what coaching at this level is really based on. It's all about postseason, playing right at the right time, having guys that have that kind of stamina that can make it to the end of the season, be playing their best ball at the end of the year. And it just isn't there with Rick. Maybe he pulls a rabbit out of the hat this year. I do not know. I am not a psychic and can tell the future, but it just is. It's tough to watch. I think that the style of play exacerbates a lot of this talk because it just is painful to watch. That game was torture. I mean, what else are you supposed to say? You scored, what did I say? 3 points in 8 or 9 minutes. That's torture. That sucks. And they still had a chance to win it at the end at Texas, on the road at Texas, a talented team with a really good coach who's coached in a Final Four before. But man, I think that exacerbates a lot of it. There's layers there with this whole situation. You can unpack it all you want, but man alive, I just please, Rick, just win, baby. Just win. We're all rooting for you.
Speaking of that last play, I mean, we've got to dive into that a little bit. What was your take? Because look, there was a lot of Tennessee basketball savants on Twitter after the game.
Everybody had an
telling
opinion.
Me what I should think, what I thought was wrong. A lot of people that I'm assuming, based on their tweets, I feel like this is a good assumption. They were probably high-level assistant college basketball coaches, maybe NBA assistants at some point. Now they're just Tennessee fans on Twitter. I don't know what happened along the way, but there's a people there that apparently have a lot of basketball knowledge, and they're not afraid to share it and tell you why you're wrong. I mean, I felt like it was 6.2 seconds left, I think. You've got a lot of time. I've watched Chris Duhon for Duke years ago go coast to coast in like 3 or 4 seconds or something unreal. I mean, you can get from one end to the other in 3 or 4 seconds. And then you've got kind of 2 seconds there to figure out what you're going to do. You only need 1 point to tie, 2 to win. My thought is they're going to go to the rim and try to draw a foul, at the very worst. I mean, that's how I feel. I agreed with Fran Fraschilla that the hook and ladder type play would probably be the best way to inbound it. I think everybody pretty much felt that was the go-to.
That's what they did
in the situation. And maybe, based on what we saw, maybe the plan was for Ziegler to try to go to the rim, and then he had options if it wasn't there. And Texas did kind of take away the paint, so James was open on the wing. Then you got Vescovi in the corner that could have crashed in, from towards the baseline there, and maybe had an open jumper, or he takes the 3. I don't know. But if that's your plan, one, why is Kennedy Chandler not the one driving to the lane there? I mean, that's the guy that's going to probably have the best chance of scoring going to the basket. Ziegler's 5'9", and he's, I don't know. It's not the guy that you would want in that situation. Listen, he's been playing great. I love the kid. I love his attitude. He's got this moxie about him, but that's not who should have the ball in that situation. And I felt like there was just a lot of people out there like, you don't know what you're talking about. This was a perfect design play. They got an open look. I'm like, but it wasn't the right look.
Exactly.
It was my problem with it.
So, yes, that play was perfectly executed. I think it was kind of similar. It wasn't exactly the same, but kind of similar to the play that Villanova ran when they won their national championship. Chris Jenkins hit that three at the end, and it was just a similar setup.
Yeah.
Like you said, they sort of ran that hook and ladder. They hand it off to Ziegler. He goes into the lane, draws the defense in towards him, then dishes it out for a wide open Josiah Jordan-James. He could not have been more open. Didn't have a guy within 3 feet of him. For what that is, perfectly drawn up, perfectly executed, and the kid didn't hit the shot. I just know watching, a lot of people went, well, he was wide open. Yes. Being wide open doesn't make that a high percentage shot.
Yeah.
That was my point.
Mine's, yeah.
A historical 26% three-point shooter in Josiah Jordan-James is not the guy I'm giving the ball to in that spot. He had made a couple of threes leading up to that. Maybe they're thinking, oh, he has the hot hand. Whatever the rationalization was there, fine. Vescovi, historically a better three-point shooter. Kennedy Chandler, a better three-point shooter. Zakai Ziegler, a better three-point shooter historically. You got 3 guys right there that just draw the same play up, but give it to that guy. I said Vescovi just because he's playing so well right now. He wasn't playing well in that game, but you just trust history, trust the numbers, what they are. What I would have done, again, everybody thought that they had the right answer. So I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with this. I can just tell you what I personally, I'm going for the highest percentage shot possible. And to me, that would have been driving to the hoop, and specifically probably driving with Santiago Vescovi, because if you force the issue as a Zakai Ziegler, because a lot of people, they said, oh, well, the lane was jammed. That's the point. Of course they're going to jam the lane and not let you go to the hoop when they're up by 1 right at the end of the game. Of course. But you drive in, and one of 2 things hopefully happens. You go up strong, you take it as strong as you can, and they either are afraid to foul and you're able to actually put a shot up, or they don't let you put a shot up and you get fouled. And refs, you've seen historically in college basketball, refs are not afraid to call a foul in that situation and insert themselves into the game. They did it on the previous possession.
No.
They did it right before with ticky-tack BS. Just right before then. You don't think that they might have been happy to give you one too? And so you force the issue. I would have done it with Santiago Vescovi because he's a little taller. I think a ref might see Zakai Ziegler because he's so short, might see him take it in and get stuffed and go like, oh, it's just a block. He's really short.
Mm-hmm.
The guy just blocked him. Where with Vescovi, you could force the issue more. He's a little bit taller. He probably just more experienced too. He could probably get a half decent shot up, probably gets fouled. And it just is a higher percentage play than giving the ball to a wide open, but historically 26% three-point shooter. That's my take on it. He was wide open. It was the shot. He hits that. None of us are complaining. It's one of those, you see it a lot in games. Like a guy will put up a kind of ill-advised 3, and when they put it up, you go, oh, and then they make it, you go, oh,
yeah,
okay, all right, not great, but he made it, and that's all that really matters. I'm not going to squabble with it. It was drawn up well. They executed it correctly. It's not what I would have done, and I'm not claiming to be any kind of, I played basketball. They're a big chunk of my life, and I still dork out about basketball strategy. Clearly, I mean, just look, I'm sure people who aren't huge basketball heads are loving this talk where we're, where we're point by point breaking down basketball strategy. But I claim to be nothing more than that. But it's not what I
would have. I mean, I sent you that clip, I guess, yesterday where it looked like Olivier was trying to call timeout as they cross midcourt.
There's a lot of weird about that.
That to me, I don't know the explanation on that. Is he doing that on his own?
Looked like the ref was looking him right in the face when he did it.
I don't know. Did Tennessee have timeouts left at that point? I'd
have to go back and look.
I mean,
I think so.
Because if they didn't, then
he actually saved us. He saved us from a technical
situation. Foul. Yeah. But I thought that would have been kind of I would have liked that. Go set up from half court and try to get somebody come off of a screen away from the ball or something for a closer shot, a higher percentage shot. I would have liked that move, but that shot goes in and everybody's loving it.
Yeah.
So it is tough. I get it. It's hard to criticize too much. I think that Kennedy Chandler not having him in is my biggest gripe with that. And Barnes said he just liked the rhythm that group was in, which I can see. You've been on a 16-0 run. You've closed the gap. I get it. You don't want to mess with rhythm, and historically, that's what he likes to do. I mean, some people were even surprised he called a timeout in that situation.
Tennessee did have a timeout.
Okay,
went back and looked.
So that that would have been what I probably would have done. Advance the ball past midcourt, set something else up better. You still got 3 or 4 seconds to work something there out of a half court set, which I think they'd be better at.
It was also perfect in that if Triple J there gets the ball and quickly dishes it immediately to Vescovi, he had a lane right to the hoop.
I mean, maybe that was the plan too, but he just couldn't pass up such an open shot.
He was wide open, and and you can criticize all day long. It's bang bang.
It is,
and you just
very easy on the couch to watch the clock and say, "What are you doing?" I think about that every time I see somebody managing the clock, because it's so much different when you've been when you're like at a game. I've never played in a game like that, but especially like in football, it's easy to criticize it, but it's very hard to be aware of where the clock is and exactly what's happening. On TV, it's right there. It's all you can see. So in the court, you're playing the game. Like, you're actively trying to execute and also keep track of time. So I understand it's kind of tough there.
Yeah, you feel the panic. You don't have the time to look up and be like, "Oh, there's 2.5 seconds left. I'll pass the ball."
Yeah, exactly.
You're just thinking, "I got to get this ball up, to make sure we get a chance." Woulda, coulda, shoulda all day long. Tennessee should have scored more points in that basketball game, and you win the game. That's the bottom line. You should have scored more.
Neither team played great.
No, it was 2 good defenses just facing off, and Tennessee played phenomenal defense that whole game. Really clamped down. And just couldn't throw a pea in the ocean. Just couldn't do it. And painful watch. And so we move on. You got Texas A&M coming up at home. Game you should win. It's not going to be easy. I've seen Texas A&M does play tough. I'll put them in a similar category to like Mississippi State, Ole Miss, kind of in the bottom third of the league probably. But we'll see what happens there. And just keep not going to have any serious combos about the future Rick Barnes till that train actually comes by. But I meant to say this at the beginning where I was talking about, just pain being a Tennessee fan. So it was the Lady Vols followed by the men at Texas, blowing it right there at the end. Then the Bengals make the Super Bowl. Of course. Of course. The Tennessee Titans play the Miracle Boys and sack the Miracle Boy 9 times and lose. Mind you, outplay the Miracle Boys and lose, which the Chiefs also did. Outplayed them in that first half for sure.
Yeah.
And then blew it. Of course, that's who we had to play, right? That's Tennessee sports, man. It just kick you while you're down. The pain. What did DR Vol on Twitter? He sent us that screen cap. When will the pain ever end? It doesn't seem like it ever will.
No, I mean, but what makes it even worse is that the Titans have had a winning record 5-6 years in a row.
6 years
at this point. Yeah. The Bengals were 2-14 2 years ago. 2-14 and just a complete laughing. They still have a terrible offensive line, like you kind of mentioned there, which they did play a little better against the Chiefs. Tennessee has the better pass rush, so that was expected that Tennessee was going to give Cincinnati's offensive line troubles, despite Quentin Spain wanting to talk trash about giving up 9 sacks to the Titans. But I don't know. I mean, Joe Burrow
he's a dude.
He is. And it's not just the thing about Burrow, and it's what makes you have elite quarterbacks and you have like really special quarterbacks. And I think Joe Burrow is trending in that direction, because what has made him good is just the fact that he's elevated the play of everyone around him. It seems like he makes people better because he's not the most physically gifted quarterback. He doesn't have the best arm. I've seen more accurate passers. I mean, he's accurate enough. He's accurate. He's a good quarterback, but he's not going to wow you with his physical abilities. He's not the fastest guy. He can run enough to get a first down and frustrate you, but he's not a burner. He's just it's the competitiveness. I mean, it is really like a Tom Brady like attitude that he seems to have brought to the Bengals. If you can turn the Bengals into a winner, you're doing something pretty special.
I mean, it's that element that makes me just so deeply ill about the Titans' loss is because we killed him. I mean, he was on his butt 50% of that game. He didn't play well against us, but he did enough. He did enough, and that's all that counted. And Ryan Tannehill helped them out immensely. We're going on the game-winning drive, and he throws an interception. We should have won that game, but
Titans lost the game. The Bengals didn't necessarily win it.
Exactly, but then the Bengals went to Arrowhead and they won that game. And he's a baller, and he's going to be. So a lot of people making Brady comparisons, like you just did. Maybe he hits me more like an Aaron Rodgers. Like he's gonna be in that upper echelon, but to be anybody making Brady comparisons.
Well, yeah, he's not.
He's gonna win 6 Super Bowls. Yeah, are we making that kind of assumption right now?
I don't think he's gonna be. I don't think anybody. I don't think we'll ever see that again. Not in this era of football. But I think his style of play is more the way he leads. Just his demeanor is more Brady-like. Because I think Aaron Rodgers is from a physical quarterback standpoint. I think Aaron Rodgers is more impressive than Tom Brady. I think Patrick Mahomes is more impressive, just the things he's able to do. There are a lot of quarterbacks I think physically over the years have been more impressive than Brady. Brady just has that ultra Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant like competitiveness where it's like, I'm going to win. We're going to find a way. And I feel like Burrow has that kind of dynamic going on where we kind of saw it at LSU. He has this.
Yeah.
I saw where somebody tweeted that he told this reporter that he believes that he could go in an NBA game right now and score 12 points, 15 points, something like that. And he was like an all-state basketball player in Ohio.
He was
almost like, he's a really good basketball player. Probably could have been like a mid-major college basketball player. They said he said this with a straight face. And the reporter said, like, anybody that has that kind of just nonsensical confidence where it just doesn't even, like, you're not even living in planet Earth. Like, there's something about that. Like, he has no doubts about himself. Like, he's not going to doubt himself. He might lose, but he's not going to lose because he didn't believe in himself type thing.
It's like me with my flaming hot takes about the Titans. You just exude that confidence.
Yeah.
People can tell you you are wrong. It doesn't matter because you know who said it? Me. And because I said it, it's right. That's not.
Well, eventually you will be right about, like, eventually Mike Vrabel will be fired at some point. I don't know what'll happen or why or how that goes down. If he sticks with Todd Downing, it might be a lot sooner than he anticipates.
Dude, we can add this into the Tennessee Sports Pain part of this show. You're not going to fire Todd Downing. Yeah, Mike Vrabel, that's who you're rolling with. You're going to stake your career on a guy who already got fired with the Oakland Raiders. You're going to go with that? You could convince me with sticking with Ryan Tannehill. I actually said it was kind of funny last night watching the 49ers play. The offensive coordinator for the 49ers makes diamonds out of coal. Jimmy G sucks. He doesn't have a running back. So he uses Deebo Samuel in every position on the offense. Deebo Samuel might as well also play offensive line because he's everywhere else out there. Like they scheme it up in a way where he takes a very inferior set of players and they almost beat the Rams last night. A team that on the whole has a far more talented and balanced roster than the 49ers do. And I actually, I was saying it to another guy from A to Z, Jack Gentry.
Oh, yeah.
he tweeted something about it, and I was like, yeah, man, you put this guy with our offense this year, and you're probably playing for a Super Bowl. Like unless you get out-dueled by Patrick Mahomes or something like that, but you would have beaten the Bengals. I can say that much because Todd Downing put Tannehill in situations where I've already said, go watch some of the film breakdown of the interceptions for Tannehill. He was put in horrible spots by his terrible offensive coordinator. The guy is garbage. He's been garbage everywhere he's been. And Mike Vrabel apparently going to keep him. I don't get it. It's going to be, it's going to be his grave next year, whatever. But,
you do wonder how Vrabel is to work with at some point, where is he hard to work with? I mean, you saw Dean Pease like retire only to go join another. Again. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's not the case at all, but.
So this is a point about coaching culture in a macro sense. I would say you hear about Vrabel that he is a get there at 6 a.m., don't leave till 8 p.m. Mm-hmm. Devote. This is your life. You heard
of like Bruce Arians.
Yes, exactly. Who, you get a guy like that where guys just want to be his assistant coach for forever because it's just easier to work. Like Josh Heupel didn't have anybody leave his staff this year. I think that says something about how amicable he is as a boss. Like nobody is staying around that long. There's 100 different opportunities that you could go take if you had been a position coach at Tennessee. You could probably go out and find another job.
I mean, hey, Lane Kiffin tried to swipe the offensive coordinator.
Exactly. You could absolutely go find another spot, but they're staying with Heupel because he's an easier guy to work with. With Vrabel,
you got to like where you work. I mean,
yeah, exactly. That's something to everybody. I mean, I've had I've had family members just recently do that. They just didn't like the work environment without getting too specific. It just leave a job because they were like, this is not who I want to work with. Like it's a typical thing. And so it makes total sense. Okay, these guys do make $500,000 doing what they're doing, but they can go make $500,000 for a guy that's not going to beat them into the ground, And so you hear that about Vrabel, that he is one of those guys, that it's that Belichick mentality. You show up, and when I tell you to show up, and he is a player's coach, the players absolutely love him. But here's the thing. I don't care if the players like him. I don't. I want to win a Super Bowl. I pay for the merch. I pay for the tickets. I watch the games. I devote my life to this team. I don't care if the players like the coach. Win a Super Bowl. That's what, and I feel like so many of the analysts, they get lost in the sauce. Like the guys that cover the team every day, they think they have, because I did this with Tennessee. You get lost in the fact that you see it every day and you go, well, when I talk to him, he is, no. Fans of Tennessee want a national championship. Fans of the Titans want a Super Bowl. Fans of the Braves want a World Series. They don't care about any of that. You can report on it and we'll talk and we'll listen and we'll read about it and whatever. At the end of the day, I don't care about any of that. I want to win that game. If they're a tyrant like Saban and we're winning a national championship, amazing. If they're super amicable like Josh Heupel and we're winning a national championship, amazing. I don't care. I just want that win. And that's what it just doesn't like guys say that as if that's a reason that we need to keep Ray. Well, the players like him. Oh, so we can't get rid of a guy that the players like? So? And I'm not saying fire Vrabel. I am saying Vrabel seems to be digging his own grave by keeping Todd Downing. But like, I don't care. Win a Super Bowl. And you know what you did this year? Not that. You lost in the first round to a team that you had down on the mat at the end there. So that's all I know.
What do you think of, I mean, talking about Vrabel's personality, what do you think about him being so contentious with the media members at times? Because he gets pretty snappy over some questions that I don't think are that unrealistic at all.
Win something first. That's what I think. And now this, again, trying to be self-reflective. This comes from a place of I used to be in media, and it's annoying when a coach is contentious like that because you're just asking like a sort of run-of-the-mill question.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll snap off on you. And you go, listen, buddy, you haven't won anything. You're not Nick Saban. Don't talk down to me. Yeah, okay, you get the $1 million paycheck, but I get a paycheck to ask you questions. So don't do this.
I don't know if you were following along when Austin Stanley, I think it was Austin that co-owns A to Z. He was like standing in the wrong place on the practice field. This is like before COVID stuff. He was like standing in the wrong place on the practice field, and Vrabel just like ripped his head off. Like just what? Yeah, out of nowhere. He apologized to him in the press conference, like that day or the next day. I'll have to go back and look. I'll text it to you if I can find it all. But yeah, he was very he does that kind of stuff. Paul Kaharski, he's anytime Paul, which I know Paul can kind of be kind of combative at times, but yeah, feels like anytime he asks you a question, and sometimes they're pretty good questions. I mean, there was one recently, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was like, that's not a unreasonable question at all. I mean, it's not attacking anyone. It's not trying to get like a BS quote out of Vrabel. But then he makes it something because he jumps all over him. I think it ended up being a clip that was where he just walked off, or he's like, I'm done with this BS or something, where he walked off the podium. So I don't get it. What are you doing? Maybe you are trying to be Belichick, but he doesn't. It's just not natural.
It's not, because it's what happened with, I specifically think of Jeremy Pruitt at Tennessee. He had he was trying to be Nick Saban. You're not Nick Saban. Win something first. And like everybody in all of this have been, I will be overly critical of Mike Vrabel. I know I am. Fine. But everybody hangs their hat on, we went to the AFC Championship game. We went to the AFC Championship game. What have you done for me lately? Because all you've done for me lately is lose two playoff games. That's all you've done.
I mean, Mark Sanchez with the 2 AFC Championship games. So
yeah. What have you done for me lately? That's great that he did that. You know who else has done that? Zach Taylor has done that. Zach Taylor made it to the Super Bowl. You know who else has done that? Sean McVay. Sean McVay's made it to 2 Super Bowls. And they're young, and they're right there with you, I would say, in that same class. And you know who's done more? Both of those guys. So this makes me so, people who are like, we shouldn't hold this guy that makes millions and millions of dollars off of our dime, off of the fans' dime. He's making millions and millions of dollars off of your back. You pay for the ticket. You're the season ticket holder who goes to the game. Hold this guy accountable. Don't let him go into the press conference and get asked a serious question that would hold him accountable and let him pop off like a clown. That's so annoying to me. And I think it does come from, I was already saying it comes from having covered sports up close, where you see these coaches and you go, this is a person. This is just a guy. He's not better than you. He's not anything special. He just makes more money than you do. And you know what you can say to that is, kiss my butt. I do not care that you make more money than I do. You like I said, at the end of the day, we're all paying that paycheck because we're fans of the team. If there were no fans of the team, there wouldn't be a team. So I get very up in arms about that, as you can probably tell. And it comes from having covered Tennessee, and specifically from having to cover Butch frickin' Jones, who was the highest order of douchebag.
Yeah, let me educate you.
Oh god, shoot me in the face. I remember did he do that to, was it Patrick Brown or something,
probably. I remember him and Seth Stokes had quite a few issues together. It seemed like very often. It might have been Patrick Brown. I can't remember that the educate or how this works or something like that.
I believe was it Seth who asked the question that led to the fell on a helmet?
It might have been
diatribe. I don't remember exactly, but
that is one of the, just taking a step back, that is, I forgot about this, and I was looking for something on Twitter and it popped up somehow where I had tweeted the video. One of the wildest things about that 2017 season and right before Butch was fired, I mean, it's so many things that pop up that you forget that happened in that season, was when that had happened, that week on College Game Day with Reese Davis, he was talking about the Tennessee situation and talking about Shy Tuttle being hurt, and he referenced everybody knew what happened with Nigel Warrior and all that, but it was never really acknowledged. But he referenced the incident using the word shy and the word warrior in his commentary without specifically talking about those players. It was kind of bizarre television there for a little bit.
Everything about that whole time period it was a fever dream.
Yeah.
When everything 100%. When it started to unravel with Butch,
after they lost to Florida on that last second pass. Was it Felipe Franks? No, in 2017, whenever.
Oh, in 2017.
Like the Hail Mary. Well, it was kind of
that was 2017. Yeah, that's when it was coming to a close. Yep.
When that happened, and then I think they barely beat UMass. It was like, okay, this is done. And from there on, it was just full speed ahead, just craziness.
I'll always remember us watching that 2017 game. I wasn't. Well, yeah, it was at Florida. It was at Florida. That's why I wasn't there. I was like, why wasn't I there? It was at Florida. That's right. The 2017 game, and I was watching it with a good friend of mine who is a Florida fan, and then some other Tennessee fans. And they made that pass. Friend who's a Florida fan's freaking out. And I turned to the other folks there that were Tennessee fans like me, and I went, "You'll be happy. You'll be happy that this happened. Because if he beats Florida here, this guy's going to be your coach for another probably at least 1 year, if not 2. You'll be happy that they won that way." And ultimately, if they would have made a better hire than Jeremy Pruitt, that would have been the case. But Butch was just the worst. The cannot express enough
his
how
media
annoying.
His media appearances that year just became increasingly more contentious, awkward. He was very he was on edge the whole time, but he was also still trying to convince everybody that he was still he still knew what he was doing, even though the previous offseason, I believe he was trying to look for a way out, right? I mean, he kind of tried to backdoor his way into Purdue, maybe. It seems like he knew he was trying to get ahead of it. He knew what was coming, especially with Josh Dobbs not going to be there anymore. He knew that wasn't going to turn out well. But that time that he went on the radio, I think it was on 104.5 in Nashville, maybe, or the other station in Nashville, and said that the last several years have been some of the best years in the last 20 years of Tennessee football. I thought, and this guy's officially lost it. I mean, does he not realize that Tennessee had won national championships in that time frame that he was talking about? Won the SEC East several times.
It's where it's
so delusional that he thought he could convince people that he had made this huge impact on Tennessee football.
Kind of how I've been saying, media guys can get lost in the sauce where you think from that, I'm in the facility every day, blah, 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 blah. Coaches, there's no one more susceptible to that thinking than coaches, and no one more susceptible to that thinking as a coach than Butch Jones was. I mean, that guy, you could have told him anything fans could have gone down and protested in front of his office door, and he would have been like, "Oh, they're protesting because they love me, right? That's why. That's why. That's definitely why. It's because they love me. They want me around." He just was always trying to be he was the dog in the burning room meme. Just, this is fine. This is fine. That stuff was going. It took a turn even in 2015, because I remember writing a column that went really, relative to what we do, really viral, tens of thousands of reads, where I was like, Tennessee deserves better than Butch Jones. In 2015, I was out on that guy, and a ton of people were eating it up. And he won him back a little bit in 2016, then lost him at the Vanderbilt game in 2016, and then it was all just downhill from there. But that was a time. That was a time. And it's actually funny, this week, I wrote a column about, we can bring it all the way back around, full circle. Wrote a column on A2Zsports.com talking about how Todd Downing is the Butch Jones of Titans football. We all know he needs to be fired. We all know this. But just like Tennessee with Butch Jones, you should have fired him in 2016, and Tennessee didn't. And then he drives the program directly into the ground, into a flaming heap. And you got to fire Todd Downing. Vrabel, J-Rob, John Robinson, for the uninitiated, the general manager. Wake up, folks.
Yeah, there's too many good young options out there. I mean, go hire Joe Brady. I mean, the dude got fired from Carolina, but that's because Matt Rule's an idiot and didn't want Brady to run the show. He meddled in it and just didn't let him do it.
Anyone who has an at least marginally creative thought in their head as far as offensive play calling goes, you'll be better than Todd Downing. I can rant on that all day. We had another subject lined up, but honestly, let's save it because we're well over time. That went all over the place. Hopefully things are better this week. I will be, if the Bengals win a Super Bowl, that will be cool. I will say, as bitter as I am, it's kind of like with the Braves. I was like, that's cool that they, you get that moment. It's been so long. You're a tortured fan. They'd gotten so close so many times before. It's cool. That's all I'm going to give you. I'm not happy for you per se. I'm too petty for that.
What about Matt Stafford? Even though he's a Georgia player, I feel like he paid his dues all those years in Detroit.
That's right. I saw some people saying like, "Oh, we all got to root for the Bengals because Stafford's a Georgia guy." I was like, well, first of all, Burrow's an LSU guy. So
yeah, once they get to the NFL, that goes out the window 100%. Julio Jones is an Alabama guy. Derrick Henry's an Alabama guy. That's what I was going to say. Do you think it matters? Yeah.
Two of the best players on the team that I love went to the bane of my existence over at Alabama. Ryan Tannehill went to Texas A&M. I do not care about that.
AJ Brown's Ole Miss, yeah.
Stafford got absolutely put through the ringer in Detroit. I'm going to feel bad for anybody who has to be put through that. It's a garbage franchise, and he's an awesome quarterback. And yeah, I don't. Again, I'm too petty to say I'll be happy for you, but I'll say that's a cool story. That's cool.
He beat Stafford a couple of times at Georgia, right?
So you went out a little bit there. Say that one more time.
I said Tennessee beat. Did Tennessee beat Stafford a couple of times at Georgia?
Yes, he was when Kiffin. I believe Stafford was the quarterback when Kiffin beat him down in 2009, if I'm thinking correctly.
No, he 06, 07, 08.
Oh, okay, so he got drafted in 2009. That's right, he got drafted in 2009. That's right. Yep. So
I feel like they beat Georgia in 06, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And probably
so they did.
Yeah.
I mean, they were still in that sort of like marginal Mark Richt phase. That's when Mark Richt was starting to fade.
Yeah, they beat him in 06 and 07. So
yeah,
he was 1-2 against Tennessee.
Yeah, you already beat him. You already beat him. And you beat him when it actually mattered to that whole rivalry.
Exactly. God, imagine being a professional NFL quarterback. You're in the Super Bowl, but you had a losing record in college to Tennessee. What are the odds of that right now? And not to.
That's rough.
Yeah,
that is rough. Well, he can get his this week. Congratulations to him. Cool. I would say it's a really cool story. Go look up with his wife who had to relearn how to walk and speak.
That's insane.
In the last couple of years, and then
she had like a 12-hour surgery. I think she had to undergo. I mean, that's
crazy. Yeah. So there's that. I guess the Super Bowl will not have happened by the next.
No, it's next.
Weeks.
Yeah. No former Vols in the Super Bowl, so there's no rooting interest that way.
Yeah. That's rare. It is rare.
It is.
It would have been a decent amount had it gone the other way in both of those games, but I think that is it. I'm Charlie Burris. That is Zach Ragan. Any parting thoughts for the good folks at home, Zach?
No, I think that about covers it this week. I think we fired about everybody that needs to be fired. So
we got to put the disclaimer on it. Nobody wants Rick Barnes fired. As of right now, I don't know that I want Vrabel fired, but he's skating on thin ice. Who else? I definitely don't want Kelly Harper fired. You still, just rebound from that loss. We'll get there. That's basically everybody We definitely don't want Josh Heupel fired. Don't want, baseball's coming up. Yeah. Definitely don't want Tony Vitello fired. So see, we're not that bad in terms of the firing talk this week. Charlie Burris, Zach Ragan. Thank you so much for listening to everybody. And thank you to everybody who watched on the YouTube. Hopefully we're going to grow that here soon. And now that we're posting it there, go watch it on the YouTube, iTunes, or Apple, or whatever it's called now, Spotify, anywhere and everywhere fine podcasts are sold on the A to Z Sports Podcast Network. And with all that out of the way, that's all. I don't know. There's probably more I'm forgetting, but whatever. We'll get it next week. I'm Charlie Burris. That's Zach Reagan. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to y'all next week.
See you guys later.